Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tunnel Vision Sports. I am Darayus Sethna, and today we've got a special edition of some of my work today. We're bringing in one of my good friends and colleagues from Ohio University, Alex Michalec. Had the chance to be on a podcast with him this past year, where we dove into all different types of sports. It was called Sports Beat. We had a blast. Alex, can't wait to get started on that in the fall again. But it's summertime now, but here's a weird thing. We're going to be talking about World Cup soccer, and we're usually talking about World Cup soccer in the fall, but now it's going to be in the wintertime because it'll be in Qatar. But first off, Alex, how are you doing, man? It's good to see you, and thanks for taking some of your time out of your day to do this for us.
Of course, I'm very well. Following up with everything that sports has to offer right now. I got a little bit of NHL, NBA, international soccer right now, and if temperatures in Qatar didn't reach the 115 in the summer, we'd be watching some World Cup right now.
No, I definitely kind of wish we had some World Cup in the summer right now because I'm all in on the NBA Finals, but those will be over in 2 weeks. And then what am I going to have the rest of the summer? You know what I mean?
Right.
But World Cup, we're going to be back in college once the opening games kick off here. And I wanted to talk to you, Alex. You're the soccer guy. I come to you for soccer stuff, especially international soccer stuff, because that's one of my favorite topics in soccer. Let's kind of go on a group by group basis here. We're going to start with Group A, Alex. We've got Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. So the Netherlands, I'm thinking, Alex, really should be the top team here in Group A. They lost to the Czech Republic in the Euros in 2020. They won third place at the 2014 World Cup. They beat Brazil in the third place play-in matchup. They failed to qualify, though, for this most recent World Cup in Russia. They're back on the national stage here at the World Cup. But Ecuador, you really don't think about them with powerhouses of South America. But to me, they're always a team that can be in the hunt. I'm thinking, Alex, in this case, Group A, Netherlands and Ecuador should be the top two teams. What are your thoughts on Group A? Do you feel that way as well?
So I do not at all, actually.
Okay.
I agree with you. I agree with you on Netherlands, 100%. I think they're the best team in the group. They just came off a couple days ago in the Nations League. They obliterated Belgium, and we know how good Belgium is. They finished third place in the World Cup last year, and they just beat them a couple days ago. I think Senegal is going to be the number two. They just won. They're coming off the win of the African Cup of Nations. They won the African Cup of Nations just a couple months ago in the early winter months. They've got Sadio Mane. They've got good chemistry. They've got Chelsea starting goalie and goalie of the year, Mendy in goal. And I think they're coming off a hot streak. They just won the best team in Africa. So I think they're going to finish two. But I do think Netherlands, it's a loss for Netherlands if they don't finish first.
So we're saying that the host nation, Qatar, doesn't even finish, maybe even in third place. So they're not advancing.
I don't think so, unfortunately. Thank you, Qatar, for hosting, but I don't think so.
Do you think Ecuador, and last kind of point here for Group A, do you think Ecuador could give Senegal a run for their money, or do you think it's Netherlands and Senegal locked in at those spots?
I think Ecuador could give Senegal a run for their money, but I just think Senegal has had a lot of recent success, and that success is going to translate.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting group. As we said, I expect Netherlands to really bounce back. They've had a rough couple of years, losing the Euros early on. They can't even qualify for the last World Cup. So a lot of riding at stake here for the Netherlands. It's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back in this year's tournament. Group B, Alex, this is going to be a good one.
This is my favorite group.
This is my favorite group as well. We've got England, Iran, the United States, and we're waiting for that last spot in Group B. But you've got two teams, England and the United States. And England haven't won a World Cup since they hosted it in 1966, but you could argue this is the best they've ever been, Alex. They lost in the Euro 2020 final. They made the semifinals in the 2018 World Cup, played against Belgium in that third place match. They lost to Belgium, so they got fourth place, but that's still pretty amazing. by England standards. So before we dive into the group here, Alex, I wanted to ask you, because I know you're a big England guy. Do you think this is the best England has ever been, even like before, even including their 1966 World Cup squad that won it all? Is it the best they've ever been?
So I don't know. So obviously, like off the top of my head, I don't know the players on the 66 team and stuff like that. But in recent memory, this is the best England squad I have ever seen. They have depth all over the field. They have one of the best strikers in the world, Harry Kane.
Yep.
And Harry Kane. They've got a young midfield, a veteran defense, a veteran goalkeeper. They've got experience. They just were in the Euro final. They've got chemistry. But one thing to note here, in the Nations League, and they played 2 games in the Nations League so far. They lost to Hungary, and they drew Germany, 1-1 off an 89th minute Harry Kane goal.
Do you think maybe they're not playing with that intensity that they are going to eventually bring in the World Cup?
Yeah.
Because I feel, again, Nations League, it's not even like the Euros. It doesn't have that same. That not a lot is at stake to me.
There's not as much of a pool.
Right.
There is one thing I would say though, and this is kind of transitioning to the USA now. I think USA versus England is going to be the most watched soccer game in America ever.
Oh yeah. And forever.
I literally, Darayus, I put it on my calendar, my Apple calendar. I put the time on my calendar. I don't think you realize how excited I am for that game. I will be glued to my TV. Oh my Lord. That is going to be one of the greatest soccer games for US, for England. And I do think if we're talking about the group, it's easily going to be England 1, USA 2. I don't think it'll go down any other way.
So speaking of the USA here, Alex, you're talking about guys. Really, the name that sticks out to me on this USA roster for everyone is Christian Pulisic. This is a guy who is exactly goal scorer, can control the game when he wants to. How far do you see this United States team going? Because they made the round of 16 in 2010 and 2014, lost in both of those games, couldn't even qualify in 2018. They're back on the World Cup stage here in 2022. Are we thinking another just round of 16 loss? Because this is a very young team. There's no more Clint Dempsey, no more Michael Bradley, no more Tim Howard. Young team. What are your expectations for the USA heading into this tournament?
I think that the USA are on the right trajectory. I think there's a lot of hype around them right now. Remember, Pulisic's only 23.
Yeah.
And he's considered a veteran, right?
At
20, you're considered a veteran, that's nuts. So I think this World Cup, 16 maybe, I think 16, maybe even 8. But what I'm looking forward to is 2026. Because all these young guys, low 20s, very low 20s, high teens. You get 4 more years. Pulisic at 27, that's prime.
That's gonna be fun.
All these guys are going to be 23 to 27, all those ages. I'm looking at 2026, and that's far down the line. But I think this team in 2026 is going to be probably the best U.S. team we've ever had. This year, I do think we're going to do well, but I'm looking forward to 2026.
And what a fitting way to possibly have that best U.S. team ever when we co-host the 2026 World Cup with Mexico and Canada. Speaking of that game with England, Alex, England taking on the USA November 25th at 2 p.m. I know you like you said, you already had your calendar marked. I'm going to have my calendar marked. I'm going to do that today. This is going to be a big-time matchup. Thanksgiving week, maybe have some leftover turkey or some pre-Thanksgiving meal. So that's going to be a great matchup. So excited to see that one. Alex, let's move on to Group C now of the tournament. We got Argentina, Mexico, and Poland really going to be the 3 battling it out for those top 2 spots. Saudi Arabia did participate in the last World Cup in 2018. They finished in 3rd place. So to me, when we think of this group, Alex, I think about Argentina. I think about Lionel Messi, this possibly very well being his last chance at a World Cup. You look at Mexico, Mexico, I think, has to be one of the most tormented World Cup teams ever, and I want to hear your opinion on this, Alex. But Mexico, sorry, let me just get this in.
Sorry,
This is a really interesting stat. They've been eliminated from the round of 16 in the last 7 World Cup tournaments. The last time they advanced was in 1986 when they hosted the tournament. So it's terrible because you make the knockout stage in every World Cup, 1994 and on, and every time you get knocked out in the round of 16. But yeah, Alex, I definitely see that you're eager to talk about this group. So talking about Argentina, Mexico, what's your thoughts on Group C? Who should win it? Who should we look out for? Because, Robert Lewandowski in Poland is always going to be a threat. So your thoughts on Group C?
So I think looking at all the groups right now, I think Group C might be in the running for the most clear-cut number 1, which is obviously Argentina, right? They just won the Finalissima, which is the winner of the Copa America and the winner of the Euros, which is Italy versus Argentina. Won 3-0, absolutely ran the entire game. Lionel Messi just put up 5 goals against Estonia. They're in the greatest form we've seen them
in. But that's Estonia, though. Like, are we? But you know what I mean?
5 goals. That's all I'm saying. That
is fair.
Let me finish. 5 goals against Estonia. They have unbeaten their last 30-something games. No team in this group is even going to come close to dethroning them for 1. But I think the battle for 2 might be very, very, very tight. I think it's got to go Mexico or Poland. Poland just got wiped by Belgium yesterday, 6-1.
Yeah.
Mexico got wiped by the USA earlier this year. I think it's a coin flip for me. If I had to put money on it right now, I'd probably say Poland.
Okay, that's interesting because if I had to put money on it, I would say Mexico. To me, resume matters, and when I look at Mexico's World Cup resume versus Poland, and you've got to give the upper hand to Mexico. I think, Mexico, they're definitely one of those sleeper teams. They're not a team you want to just walk into in a World Cup, especially on the World Cup stage, and, act like you've got the game in hand, because it can really go either way with Mexico. So this is going to be a very interesting group. Last point here of Group C, Alex, Lionel Messi, he's not getting any younger. Do you think he has a legitimate chance to win a World Cup this year? We talk about the role players on Argentina as well, but the star of the show is Messi. Can he deliver for Argentina like Maradona did?
I think he can. I think this is the year. I think later, before we end it, I have something to say. I think there's 4 clear-cut teams, and we'll talk about that later. I think Argentina is one of those big 4 teams that honestly has a chance to win it. And unfortunately for Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't think Portugal has a real chance to win it. I think this is Argentina's year. They've got a very easy group. This should be a cakewalk to first. I mean, this should be a very slow start to their World Cup final.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the team, if they do make the knockout stages, which they should, how they kind of progress. Because in the 2014 World Cup, when they made the knockout stages, Messi did not score in any of those knockout stage games, including the final, which they lost to Germany in 2014 in extra time. Let's move on to Group D here. Alex, the defending World Cup champions, France, in this group, we're waiting on that final spot in Group D, but the other teams with France include Denmark and Tunisia. And when we look at this group, Alex, Denmark, the last time they won a major tournament was back in 1992 when they won the European Championships. And and in 2020 they lost to England in the Euro final, excuse me. So this is a team that has a mix of veteran talent and some young leadership. So I can see Denmark being a sleeper team, but France are the defending champs.
Agreed. I'm just going to say it right here. I think Denmark's a sleeper team. I think they really are. I think they have, you put it perfectly, they've got a couple young guys, a couple veteran guys. Obviously, the name Christian Eriksen pops up. We saw what happened to him, unfortunately, on the Euro stage. Thank goodness he's back playing again.
Right.
But we know how good of a player he is when he's healthy. And again, this kind of kind of like Group C. I don't think as much because I think Denmark is a better team than either Mexico or Poland.
Yep.
But France should run away with this. Again, like I said with Argentina, they should cruise to that one spot. They're the runner-up for a reason. They're getting better. They're getting younger. Obviously, we know the name Kylian Mbappe, Karim Benzema.
Had 4 goals in the 2018 World Cup.
Yep. Kylian Mbappe, Karim Benzema, Paul Pogba. You know the names. The big stars. They always show up for France. I think we can kind of move to the next group here because I think there's not much else to say besides France is going to win the first, and I think we both agree Denmark's going to take 2.
Well, before we move on to the next group, Alex, I just want to get your quick opinion here. Is France repeating in 2022?
No.
No. Okay, that is a very interesting take. I'm going to get your thoughts on that at the end of our group analysis here. But moving on to Group E here, this is an interesting one, Alex. We've got Spain, Germany, and Japan. We're still waiting on that final place there. But with the 3 teams we have there, Spain and Germany, I would consider 2 European powerhouses. But Japan is also, I feel like Japan could be a sleeper team as well. What are your thoughts on Group E? Should the European teams be the clear-cut favorites to come out of this group?
I think this is the second hardest group. The second hardest. Definitely the second hardest. I mean, putting Spain and Germany in the same group, that's nuts. You're going to have powerhouses. You're going to have people, Thomas Mueller for Germany. Spain is going to have Morata. They're going to have David De Gea. All these great players. It's crazy the way this came out. I mean, Spain and Germany are powerhouses, as you said.
Right.
For people who don't follow soccer and they think, all right, it's the World Cup. It's probably going to be a team like Spain. It's probably going to be a team like Germany, Brazil. They're in that conversation every year. So to have these teams in a single group, I think it's going to be very interesting, very fun to watch. But again, as you said, Japan, also somewhat of a sleeper. We saw
they made the round of 16 in the last World Cup.
Yes, we saw they almost beat Belgium, right?
Yep.
The crazy comeback by Belgium, one of the greatest comebacks in World Cup history. Japan almost had them. They were on the ropes. And Belgium, again, finished with that bronze medal. So don't count out Japan. But again, Spain and Germany are Spain and Germany for a reason. Yep. They'll finish 1-2, 2-1, Germany, Spain, or Spain, Germany.
In real quick here, between those 2 teams, Germany and Spain, if you had to bet money on one team winning that group, who do you think it would be between those 2 teams?
I think, honestly, I'm going to put my money on Germany by a hair. But
just that veteran talent of like Mueller and all those guys.
Mueller, they got some really, really good young players. And Spain's kind of a lot of veterans. Germany's got some really good young players. So I'd go Germany, but again, not by much.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a fun group to watch again for sure. Group F, Alex, one of your favorite teams, Belgium in this one. Canada in here as well. Canada's first World Cup since 1986. We also have Morocco, and then second place team in Russia in 2018, Croatia. They lost 4-2 in the final to France. To me, Alex, I'm seeing Belgium and Croatia in this one as the top 2, kind of like the Spain and Germany, as you were talking about in Group E. I think Belgium and Croatia are locked in here. I think Belgium's window is closing. This might be the last chance they have to really make a longer run.
Don't make me cry, Darayus.
What are your thoughts on Belgium? Is Croatia better than them? Your thoughts on Group F, man?
So, as I said in Group E, I think there's the hardest group, and I think this is the hardest group. I think it's definitely the hardest group. You got Belgium. Enough said. It's Belgium. You got Canada, a very, very good team. They can compete with the U.S. They beat the U.S. a couple times.
Right.
You got Morocco, who's a team that can also compete. And then you got Croatia. So, again, as you said, expectations for Belgium, my favorite team. I think the window's closing, but I do think we'll be able to finish first.
What are your thoughts? What should we expect here? Maybe you don't know as much about them, but Canada, this is the first time in our lifetimes that we're seeing them in a World Cup. Any expectations for them? What should we expect from this?
I don't know much about them besides the name Alphonso Davies, which is he plays for Bayern Munich. So I do think Canada has a shot. But again, as I said, I think all four of these teams can compete. And Belgium has its off days. As I mentioned, with Group 1, they did just lose to Netherlands. And Belgium has its on days. They just beat Poland 6-1 in the Nations League.
Right.
So I think Belgium's going to go first, and I think Croatia will finish second. Obviously, we know the name Luka Modric, the midfield maestro. We call him that for a reason. But I think Canada and Morocco are going to give them a very, very, very hard run for their money.
And going into Group G here, Alex, we've got Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. To me, I think this is a runaway for Brazil in Group G. If there's one team I could see them giving them a run for their money, it would be Switzerland. As we saw, Switzerland defeated France in the Euro 2020 tournament, which was very impressive. And Brazil, they defeated Cameroon in the group stages in 2014 when they hosted the tournament. That was a 4-1 victory for Brazil. So should we say that Brazil, it's a clear-cut favorite here? You know, you've got Neymar and then Vinicius, who scored the game-winning goal in the Euro 2020 final.
And the Champions League final.
Or Champions League final, my bad. But you've got Neymar and Vinicius as your forwards. I expect dominance by Brazil in this group. What are your thoughts?
Yep, I think Brazil is right now one of those top 4 teams. They are so good. I mean, I was looking at their roster on ESPN the other day. Yeah. And oh my Lord, they are loaded every single section of the field. It's big name after big name. It's Neymar, it's Vinicius, it's Alisson, Ederson. They have, so real quick to go to club soccer, Liverpool and Man City finished 1 and 2 in the Premier League. Both their goalkeepers are Brazilian. So there's a goalkeeper that starts for the second best team in the Premier League that's sitting bench on Brazil.
Yeah.
That's how deep they are. That's how good they are. I mean, I don't think there's a world where they don't finish first. And I think, yes, Switzerland can kind of give you some trouble a little bit. You know, we saw them upset France, but them upsetting France was a 1 in 1,000 upset. I mean, again, one of those crazy upsets that you see in sports. That's not going to happen again. Brazil's too talented, too deep. Again, I already said it. Big name after big name. All the players can play. I think it'll finish Brazil 1, Switzerland 2, but the gap between Brazil and Switzerland is massive.
Is Brazil the best South American team in this tournament, Alex, or are you still giving it to Argentina?
Let me answer that at the end.
Okay, I'll let you answer that one at the end. So we have our final group here. We've got Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and the Korea Republic, South Korea. And Cristiano Ronaldo, also like Lionel Messi, could very well be his last chance to win a World Cup. I just don't think with the team he has around him that it's going to be enough. And that's just always been the case with Cristiano Ronaldo's international career. We look at these other teams, Ghana, Uruguay, and the Korea Republic. Ghana have historically been a powerhouse of Africa. Uruguay, 2-time World Cup champions, although be it their last World Cup win was in 1950. And Korea Republic, who in 2002, when they co-hosted the World Cup with Japan, they finished in 4th place. And they also defeated Germany, who were the defending champions at the World Cup in Russia in 2018. They defeated them in a group stage matchup, which officially eliminated Germany from the knockout stages. So to me, Alex, this is really I can't really find a clear-cut favorite in this group. What are your thoughts on Group H? Do you see this really as an up for grabs group, or should we be looking at a clear-cut favorite here?
I do and I don't. So let me explain myself. I think so. Watching Portugal over the last year, 2 years in all their competitions, the one thing I can say is they look very, very inconsistent. Sometimes they're too Ronaldo reliant. Sometimes they don't rely on him enough. Sometimes the midfield doesn't step up. They don't have a phenomenal defense. I do think my gut, I'm going to go with Portugal finishing 1, but you can't count out Uruguay, and you definitely, as you just stated, cannot count out Korea. I mean, Korea, obviously, they have one of the best players in the Premier League, Heung-min Son, who plays for Hotspurs. He's a phenomenal winger, obviously their best player. And then Uruguay, although 34 years old, Luis Suarez, we know he does in World Cups, but like he's still a great soccer player.
Right. How do you feel about Ghana? What are their chances of making noise in this group?
So I don't know much about Ghana, so I don't want to doubt them or not give them the credit they deserve. But on the teams I do know, I do think there is a chance they actually finish last, which is pretty crazy because, as you said, they're usually a powerhouse of Africa. But I think Uruguay's got a lot of talent. I think Portugal will finish 1. I think Portugal ultimately does have the players and the talent to finish 1 in this group, but I'm not sure they can even take it farther. They might not even make it to the round of 8. We'll see. I think this group is very tough. I think Portugal will come out of it, but I don't think this is Ronaldo's year again.
It's hard to just get another guy around him and develop that talent. So we'll see what happens, but I do expect Ronaldo to carry Portugal out of Group H. And we talk about Ghana, Asamoah Gyan, who is a veteran of that Ghanaian team. When you talk about top performers for Ghana at that stage, Asamoah Gyan has to be that number 1 guy. So we'll see what he can do to help Ghana get to the knockout stages. They didn't make the knockout stages in 2014, the last time they were at the World Cup. They did make the knockout stages and defeated the USA in the 2010 World Cup in South of the semifinals, or the quarterfinals that year. So, Alex, let's look kind of just overall. We went through all the groups. You had some opinions you wanted to save for the end of our episode. That time has come, my friend. You said you had 4 major teams in the World Cup. What are those teams?
I've got 4 teams that are clear-cut A tier, and I've got 4 teams that are B tier for winning the World Cup. You want me to start with B or?
Go with B first. What are your B tier teams?
So the B teams in any order are Belgium, Spain, Germany, and Netherlands.
You've got Netherlands up there. Wow.
I have a lot of faith in Netherlands. I watched the entire Netherlands versus Belgium game, and they control pace, control tempo, opportunities. I mean, they have if you look at their back line, they have a phenomenal defense. I mean, huge names: Virgil van Dijk, Liverpool; Nathan Ake, Manchester City; Denzel Dumfries, Inter Milan. I mean, really good players. They have a great midfield: Frankie de Jong, Barcelona; Memphis Depay is their forward, Barcelona. They've got really big players. They've got really good young talents, really good veterans. I have a lot of faith in Netherlands. I really do. I think the Dutch are going to be a very, very hard team to beat. That's why I was so high on them when we first started on Group A. I think they're that good. I think they're in those top 8 teams. They're in that B tier. Any of those other teams you question?
I'm a little nervous about this Belgium pick you have, because I feel like their window has closed, if it's not already closing, and to me, the Belgium, the only tournament they did not disappoint me was in 2018 when they won 3rd place. They've been pretty disappointing in their other major tournaments. In 2014, they lose in the quarterfinals to Lionel Messi in Argentina, and Federico Higuain was the guy that scored. It wasn't even Gonzalo Higuain, my bad. But it wasn't even Messi who took them out of that World Cup. They lose in this most recent Euros to Italy 2-1 when they were still considered one of the powerhouses of Europe. So are we overrating Belgium a little bit here, Alex?
I can see that, yes. But right now in the Nations League, they're not playing Lukaku. They're not playing Courtois. They're saving them. They've got, since the last World Cup, they have absolutely increased and got better on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I will say, the one weakness for Belgium is their defense.
Yes.
The Belgian defense is not very good. You will not see a lot of names that you know, a lot of players that you can look on a paper and say, oh, I know who that is. But our attack is very well run. Obviously, everything runs through Kevin De Bruyne. In my opinion, the best midfielder in the world. And then you have Lukaku, one of the best strikers in the world. You have Courtois, a 6'8" wall in goal.
He won man of the match in the Champions League final.
Champions League man of the match for a reason. You have Eden Hazard, Thorgan Hazard. You have Yuri Tielemans. All these great young players that they did not have last World Cup. I think the window after this World Cup, agreed, is closed. But for this last World Cup, I can see them in that B side, tier B.
All right, that is a very interesting B tier, Alex. I want to get to your A tier now, and I think this might be where we have a lot of our questions answered. So, Alex, give me your A team, your A tier for favorites in this year's World Cup.
So, A tier in any order, and then I'll rank them. England, Brazil, Argentina, France.
Okay, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my 4 teams. I think one of those 4 teams is going to win it, I think for sure. I think the B tier, yes, you make a B tier because there's teams on the cusp, but those 4 teams right now are that good. France won it in 2018 for a reason. Argentina won the Copa America for a reason. Brazil made it to the Copa America final. England made it to the Euro final. All these teams have been in the final, if not won, in the last 4 years. Which means, as I talked about, recent success. That's a big key. They all have had very recent success. I mean, yeah, you can say losing in a final, but to get to a final, I think that counts as a success, to at least make it to that final checkpoint. So, with those 4 teams, I think there's, as much as it kills me to do this, I think there's 2 teams that are better than the other 2 teams. I think that Brazil and France are 1 and 2 or 2 and 1.
You're taking Brazil over England.
That's why I said it's going to kill me. It is. Because I think England, well, I mean, I can get into more of that. I can talk about this for hours, but England's manager, Gareth Southgate, is holding them back. He plays crazy combinations of players that have never played together. I mean, it was all over social media in the Euro final when it went to penalties.
Yeah.
He played 3 guys who had never taken a penalty for England ever.
Yeah.
It chose them 3 to take penalties on the biggest stage England has seen in decades. So, and then they just played Germany, and he started a 31-year-old Kieran Trippier over a 24 and 22-year-old Trent Alexander-Arnold and Reece James. His squad-making decisions are very questionable, very odd, and I think what stands out to me is he put in 3 guys who had never taken a penalty for England in all of their experiences in the biggest stage.
Yep. And
I think as a coach, 99% of coaches would be, no, we want our veterans to step up and take that shot. So I think England's going to be held back, I think, by their manager. And Argentina, I think, could be in that tier with Brazil and France. But I just think Brazil has the depth right now. That's why I put them a tad above Argentina. I know that Argentina won the Copa America, but I think Brazil's just a tad bit better.
Do you think Argentina, without Messi, you take Messi out of that picture, how good is Argentina in your opinion, Alex? Or they obviously do need Messi to win, but when you take Messi out of the equation, just how much of a threat can this Argentina team be?
They can be a threat. Let me tell you that much. I watched the Finalissima, Italy versus Argentina, and yes, Messi ran the show, but they've got a lot of other big names. They've got Angel Di Maria. They've got a young star, Julian Alvarez. They've got Lautaro Martinez, striker for Inter Milan. They've got a very solid midfield, a very solid back four. I think, yes, Messi obviously is the best player in the world, the best player ever, and the best player on Argentina. But I think even without him, let's say he has to rest for a group stage game against Poland, I don't think they sweat about it. I don't think they should be still underdog favorites. I think they're that good even without him. They're that good on all sides of the ball.
Alex, one more question for you, man. Out of those tier 8 teams, which one is winning the World Cup? I want your World Cup winner pick right here, right now.
I'm going to have to go right now. My gut feeling, Brazil.
Okay.
Brazil. As much as I want Belgium to win, we're not going to win. And as much as I want England to win, I don't think they have what it takes to win. So my guess right now is World Cup final, England, Brazil wins.
All right, I'm gonna pick France to win. I think they're gonna repeat.
Wow.
I think they have a lot of young talent. You've got Kylian Mbappe, who just is getting better. You mentioned it too, Alex. Paul Pogba, one of the best midfielders on the planet. You've got Karim Benzema, if he comes back. Hugo Lloris, I think, is a very underrated goalkeeper.
Very underrated. Agreed.
You know, he steps up in the biggest moments when you need him, especially in penalty situations. I think he's also very underrated when he's going up against a penalty taker. So I think just France, and with Didier Deschamps at the helm, I think that this is a team that is ready to win and is ready to win now. I think that Switzerland loss in Euro 2020, like you said, 1 in a million chance of that happening. I don't think they're going to let something like that happen to them on the World Cup stage. So I've got France repeating. You've got Brazil. Brazil already with the most titles of any nation in World Cup history. They have 5. France are going to be looking to get their 3rd title in this year's World Cup. So it's really going to be a lot of fun to watch. We have some great European powerhouses, some great South American powerhouses, and some teams from different continents like Africa. You've got Senegal, we've got Ghana, we've got Cameroon. And then we have some nations that, we haven't seen before in Canada, Denmark. We don't see Poland that much.
USA.
Exactly. The USA, ladies and gentlemen, is back in the World Cup. It only took us 8 years to do it, and we did it. But Alex, hey, really thank you so much again for your time, man. I saw in the beginning of the video that you had a New England Patriots, some Patriots fan gear. We're not going to talk about that. But hey, man, I really appreciate all your soccer knowledge. As I said, you're my go-to guy with soccer. Loved breaking this down with you. You know how much I love international football. You love international football. And the World Cup is just the best soccer tournament, if not the best tournament we have. So it was so much fun breaking this down with you, man. I know you're off to work in your car, so I'll let you get to that. But thank you so much again for your time, man. This was a lot of fun. And have a good rest of your summer.
All right. I'll see you later. Thanks for having me.